Alright guys, today's video we're going to be going over weapon cores and everything you need to know about them. So this guide is actually going to be broken up into 3 parts, and we'll have those in the timestamps down below. That way you can just skim through the video if you need to and grab the info that you need and not sit here through the whole video. So I would appreciate you doing that. So having said that, let's get into the video. So in order to even start this quest, you have to be MR18. If you're not MR18, the quest will not show up at the Descendant instructor. In order to start this quest, you need to do the quest named Prerequisite Learning for Weapon Core Unlocking, which again is at the Descendant instructor right here. This quest requires you to go do a Void Intercept battle, and it has to be the Abyss version. Now I do want to jump in here real quick and tell you that I've gotten mixed feedback from my community. Some of my community tells me that you don't actually need to clear the Abyss battle in order to unlock this part of the quest and move on, but other members are telling me that no matter what, it will not unlock unless they actually beat the boss. I myself have only seen the quest progress if you beat the boss, but I have got mixed feedback on this. The quest doesn't actually say you have to beat the boss, it just says you have to participate. So take this with a grain of salt, but there is a chance that it could complete for you even if you don't beat the boss. So after you actually beat the Abyss boss, you should be able to move on to the second step. In this step, you are sent to unlock a core on a weapon from Deslan. If you don't know where Deslan is, he's actually right here. Now my suggestion here is if you're planning on using Inez, make sure to unlock the secret garden with your core. Now having said that, I will be making another video after this one explaining the top 5 guns that I think you should be using your cores to unlock. But if you don't want to unlock the secret garden, just unlock the core on the gun you're using the most. The quest steps will give you prompts on how to do this, so just follow the on-screen prompts on how to unlock a core. There are a few things that you need to know here. Your weapon needs to be level 100 or it will not let you unlock the core on it. Another thing to note is that the socket types on weapons are unique to that weapon, but they do vary from weapon to weapon. So keep that in mind because some weapons are better for utility and stat sticks, and other weapons are better for pure damage. Also, right now, you can add 5 cores on your weapon. We don't know if this will change in the future, but just keep in mind that you can add 5 cores to your weapon. And at the moment you unlock your first weapon, you actually don't have any cores to put on your weapon. After you unlock the core on a weapon, next step is to head back to the Descendant instructor and start the quest Introduction to Void Erosion Purge. Now at this time, the quest seems to be bugged and you cannot bring a pre-made team into the first stage. You'll either have to launch this solo or with a public group. Once you clear this with more than 5 minutes left, you can now group up with your friends and do subsequent stages. So me and the community did notice that at stage 5, you seem to have this exact same bug. The interesting part is it seems intermittent. Sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. So just keep in mind if you go to group up with friends in some of these stages and that happens, and they have the stage unlocked, it could just be the bug, in which case, as frustrating as it is, you're just going to have to launch it with a pub team or by yourself. We've also had mixed reports of people clearing the stages with 9+ minutes left and not unlocking the next stage. Don't really know what's happening here. This also seems to be a bug. So just keep in mind that there will be times where this activity will mess up and you will clear it with plenty of time left, but it will bug out and not give you the clear on the screen and allow you to move on to the next stage. And again, I do want to remind you guys, you have to clear the stages in under 10 minutes in order to progress to the next stage. You can clear the stage in up to 15 minutes for the rewards, but you will not unlock the next stage. So after you've cleared the stages, you can finally go back to Deslan and put cores on your weapon. After you do this, you are done with the quest, and now you can do Void Erosions to continue to grind cores to upgrade your weapons further. Alright guys, so we're getting ready to look at the weapon cores and the type of weapon cores and how those stats work and affect your weapons. There is one very important thing that you need to know here before we move on. Weapon cores modify the intrinsic perks of a weapon. So if your weapon does not have that damage on it, you cannot further multiply it because 290% times 0, which is your weapon's intrinsic stat, is still 0. Where this starts to show up is when you're dealing with things such as damage to Colossus, damage to factions, element damage, and anything else that is not intrinsic to the weapon that you're trying to modify. We'll go over this a little further as these items come up while we're going through the core types. So the first set of cores we're going to look at is actually the red cores. So out of these, you can either roll firearm attack or bonus firearm attack versus Colossus. Out of the two of these, firearm attack always works because firearm attack is intrinsic to your weapon. However, bonus attack versus Colossus does not work if you do not have bonus firearm attack versus Colossus on your weapon roll. The reason again behind that is because this is a multiplier and not a base damage number. So keep in mind, if you do not have bonus firearm attack versus Colossus in one of these 4 slots, this will not work and you will get 0 benefit from it. For the red cores, we've got weak point damage, firearm crit hit rate, and firearm crit hit damage. All of these will work no matter what because they are intrinsically on your weapon, and these are just great flat damage bonuses to put on your weapons. These are the bonuses that you can get for yellow cores. As you can see, some of these are probably more beneficial to you than others, so just keep that in mind and pick the ones that work better for you. Again, I'll have tips on all these here in just a minute. These are the green core attributes. Here are all the blue core attributes, and again, notice that these are a percent and not a flat number. So these only work if you have one of these 4 types of attack, either on your weapon intrinsically or in one of the 4 slots that we had mentioned previously. Now there is an actual rainbow socket, and this is basically a freebie socket. You can put in a gem of any color here. Typically stacking additional damage on a weapon is the play, and something that you're probably going to want to do with this socket. However, some people are using these weapons as stat sticks and have come up with some creative things to put in this socket. Either way, just keep in mind that you can put basically anything you want in there. And finally, we have the purple slots. These are your faction bonuses. And again, notice that these are percents and not flat numbers. So you will have to have this type of attribute on your weapon in one of the 4 slots in order for it to work. So here are a couple quick tips to make your life a little bit better and help you really understand what you should and shouldn't be doing with these cores and save you a little bit of time. So one of the first quick tips I have is when you unlock your core the first time from Deslin and go to put in actual colored cores, keep in mind that you don't have to slot every one of those with a core at that time. It's actually worse for you to do that because you will, as you progress through the void erosion, get stronger cores, and you will actually have to waste material in order to resocket. So my suggestion here is to actually slot something into the purple socket for right now. This is probably one of the least important sockets on your weapon. That doesn't mean that it's not important, but it's one of the least important ones early on, and you can go ahead and socket something in here and worry about re-rolling it a little bit later down the line. So if you plan on using your weapon for general weapon damage and not to burn down Colossus, you will obviously always want to put firearm attack in there. The reason I bring this up is because if you're going to use your weapon to burn down Colossus, you will actually want to put the bonus damage versus Colossus in there because you're going to get more bang for your buck out of it. Just keep in mind, it's not going to do as well as it would in general mobbing. Also, remember that you have to have damage versus Colossus on your weapons roll, or this is completely worthless. When we looked at the green cores, there were a couple options, but realistically, the only 2 you're really going to want to focus on here are either fire rate or mag size. Most of the other ones either don't give you enough bonus, or there are other ways to get those bonuses. These 2 really will help scale up your damage, so you're probably going to want to pick one of these 2 if you have green slots on your weapon. So for your purple slot, the one that we basically said didn't matter earlier, this doesn't entirely matter that much to most people. But if you are min-maxing and you're doing void erosion, this will actually matter a little bit because there are different factions in different stages, and you can actually ratchet up your damage just a little bit here to help you burn those monsters out or to help with the immune phases and other things that happen to the boss at the end of those stages. So while these weren't hyper important, They could be something to help you squeeze out just a little bit more damage when it comes to those harder void erosion stages that you're struggling with. For the yellow cores, sprint, speed, and grapple are probably going to be your best choices here. For a lot of Descendants, they're pretty far off of the sprint cap, and they can all effectively use a double sprint speed buff to make them move a little bit faster. The only Descendant that doesn't really follow that is Bunny, and that's because when Bunny is using her run skill, she's only like 100 points off of the speed cap, so giving her one speed bonus is enough to make her hit the speed cap, and she'll never run any faster. So for Bunny, you would be best using one sprint speed and one grapple. However, you can do double grapple on some weapons, and it's possible to get almost a 100% uptime in the air with these bonuses. So keep that in mind, because I know there are a few Bunny mains out there that really like to spend a lot of time in the air. And depending on which weapon you're using, you can actually make this happen. Alright guys, that's all the info and all the tips I have about weapon cores. This should get you enough information to get out there and start upgrading your weapons and making the most use out of the cores that you have. Again, we are going to do another guide, sort of picking which weapons we think you should and shouldn't be using weapon core unlocks on, so keep your eyes out for that. Let me know down in the comments if you have any other tips or any other suggestions for the community, because we love to share those and we're trying to make the game as best for everybody as we can. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.